Hey, I'm Greg Lee with Paisty Jenny. How you doing there, Ray?
I'm Stan Liberty, lead guitar player for Paisty Jenny out of Lincoln, Nebraska.
We've been under our own label for a long time, and you know,
nobody's getting signed and getting $1 million advances anymore.
You don't want it anymore anyway. I mean, really, the big deal. Sure, the record labels, they still do have the power of being the big machine. Okay, they can grab somebody and boom, but you know, if it flies, it flies. But you know, I don't want to end up owing somebody a shit ton of money either.
Right.
You know, I'm not gonna.
Well, and it's almost like you have to be somebody before they'll make you somebody.
Right.
Which is
it's
kind
not
of
vice versa.
Which is
exactly.
kind of backwards.
The industry is exactly that. You have to
very
absolutely
good.
establish yourself and build your own product before they're going to buy it.
So, if you're a band and you're able to do that, if you're able to set yourself apart from the rest of the pack, and you're able to build a following, and you're able to, you know, have a Facebook page with 20,000 fans,
Right.
and you're able to tour regionally or even nationally because you can fund yourself to do that,
Sure.
right?
Right.
If you've gotten to that level,
Why
and a
would you
record
go
company comes down and
Why
says,
would
we
you?
want to sign you,
Why would you?
what reason in the world would
There's
you give
none.
away publishing rights?
There's none. Nah, there's none. At that point, once you've built it, why do it?
All right.
You know?
Publishing's where it's at.
But in rock and metal, that seems to be the only way that you're getting that deal anymore.
Right. Back in the 80s, when I was in high school, I waited every year for Van Halen to make one album and come and tour my city one time that year, and then I'd never see him again. That's the only way I could ever see that band. Now, you're seeing bands roll through. I mean, we were here 2 weeks ago, you know, in Chicago, and now we're here 2 weeks again.
Right.
Not just every year, and
It could be every couple months.
Right, and you can see us without having to go live anymore. You can view us on YouTube or wherever. So there's different venues or avenues for people to see bands now, and that kind of ruins it. I think the internet and things and
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, if you're in a band,
we don't care if any buys the album anymore. It's about different things now. It's not about just.
As a band, you cannot just be a musician. You can't just write music these days. You have to wear every hat. You have to understand social media. You have to understand promotion. Yeah, you got
Merchandising is huge. Ask Slipknot.
you have
They
to
make more
understand
money
it all.
selling T-shirts.
S-Kiss.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Pinball machines, Gene Simmons caskets.
Yeah,
We've seen it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Merchandising's huge.
but I mean, really, it's. I don't know. It's just evolution. That's the way it is.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to change it. by
Nothing's
bitching
the
about
same
it.
forever.
You know, it's just the way it is.
Evolution.
Yeah.
It is evolution of music.
Yeah.
Just like the caveman.
But
or
you got to be an
dinosaurs.
expert in a lot of areas.
A lot of
to
areas.
get your career off the ground. I'm telling you.
Back in the 70s and 80s, there was a lot of recording on 8-tracks, cassettes, and a lot of sharing, and
Right.
people buying an album
Bootleg.
and taking it over to their house and listening to it with your friend. So we did it back then, and it didn't affect the record sales.
Right.
Did the downloading really affect the record sales?
Yes,
Or
because-
did it affect the or was it money? I mean, this isn't my viewpoint necessarily, but I've heard this said that the record companies just got greedy because they were able to track the file sharing at that point. And then once they could track it and they could see, you know, like maybe it wasn't so different from the 70s and 80s, but now they could track it.
Right.
And then they got greedy and they went after everybody and they started suing soccer moms for $250 million.
I think.
And then people, I think, and again, this is other people's views, but a lot of people that I've talked to have said, you know what? Screw the record companies.
Right.
So we don't want to support them, but we'll go out to the shows and support the bands. There are people on the planet
Right.
with that mindset.
Yeah.
Right?
What do you think about that?
Well, I think the whole thing about when, you know, people were doing it on cassette and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, certainly that happened. There's no doubt about it. But
Not to the widespread that it is.
so many more people, so many more bands, so much more music that, you know, back in the day when people were doing a few cassettes here or there, or 8-tracks or whatever the hell it was.
It's not to
sharing-
the extent it is now.
There's no way. There's just
Right.
no way it was as widespread.
Yeah.
Granted, some of it is they could track it now, okay, or they can track it now. But it's prolific now. It's everywhere.
Well,
Everybody
to
does
see
it.
a band-
And then everybody does it and they don't feel bad about it. I mean, that's the difference. The mindset is completely different now. Even though that might have happened back then, I think people actually didn't feel so great about what they were doing about it. It's like,
Right, you actually had to go on the street corner and buy some tape from a guy in an alley.
Right.
And now they just sit at home and it's not as relevant.
well, it's so
to
easy
them.
to do. Click,
Right,
boom,
so
yours.
that's
It doesn't matter.
For sure, social media
But
has really hurt rock.
The thing about it is, again, we can bitch and bitch and bitch all we want about that, but guess what? You still have to play into that hand.
It's a
You don't-
reality,
It's a
right?
reality, and so you have to do it. So guess what? We give away tons of music because we have to.
We have to.
It's okay,
Yeah,
whatever.
that there's some bad to it that we spoke about, but on the other side, I personally I've got some people from Argentina that I've never met or would never ever see my playing or see my band that I play in, have seen my band now from Argentina.
Right.
So there are some positives.
Well, it's the drug dealer theory, give them enough crank, get them hooked, and then you got them. I mean, that's the way it is nowadays. Boom.
So that's how you sell rock and roll.
That's how you sell rock and roll right now.
No, but social media does have some positives, but it has hurt. I mean,
Right.
if you want to check out a band, you don't sit there and go, okay, I'm going to wait for them to come around so I can see them. No, you just go Google and you see them.
Right.
So, I
Now,
mean,
on social media, what has worked best for your band?
Facebook.
Even today, after the whole timeline switch and everything?
That hurt big time. The timeline was whack for everybody, and now Facebook only allows so many posts,
right.
so many people to see your posts.
Right.
And you have to pay for them. Now you got to pay for people to see your shit.
It's all manipulated.
Well, as soon as it went corporate, boom.
Right.
But I don't know. We do a couple other social media platforms. We do Django.
Yeah.
And that's been
Are you familiar with that?
It's been really effective for us.
Tell them
Django.
about Django.
Oh, it's just it's kind of like Pandora.
Okay.
And from our perspective, we can pinpoint target markets in certain cities and stuff that we're going to next, and I'll flood that market with a certain amount of plays, and then we'll go to this market and that market, and it's been effective for us out here.
Nice.
And that's what I'm saying. You got to be an expert in all these areas.
And you can't just stick to Facebook, just like you couldn't stick to MySpace
No.
when it
Right.
changed over.
Right.
Everybody
No.
flocked to Facebook, and
Right.
now I think people are looking to flock somewhere else.
Yeah, something
I'll say
else. Latest and greatest. It'll be here.
But I mean, I think that a key is to visit all of those sites: Google Plus,
Right.
Facebook, MySpace. I mean, there's no reason not to have a
Do you have any
MySpace account.
idea
There's still millions
what
of
a
people.
pain it is to manage 10 different sites?
Right.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
That's all I do. Would I like to write music? I'd love to write some music, and instead I'm fucking managing websites.
But that is an important part of it now, right?
Very much. Very much.
Unfortunately.
Right.
And if financially you're successful enough to have other people doing that, helps out a lot too. So.
On another note, bands like Down, and I've heard some other people doing this, because of the lack of record sales, they're not putting a whole lot of time. I'll stay away from the word energy,
Right.
especially with a band like Down. But they're not putting a whole lot of time and money into
Album?
into a production of a full album.
Right.
They're more going
EPs.
towards EPs,
Everybody's
or
exactly.
even just free singles.
Yep.
Sound bites.
And then the CD has become merch at the show. When you're out there signing
Right.
signing the CDs, that's when people will buy.
People are very fickle, and their time span for liking something is very short. So you'll see bands now come out with a new album in the spring, and it's not next year when they do something.
Yeah.
They're putting something out a lot.
It's
because
not one product once
Right,
a year.
once
it's
a
every
year.
6 months.
Every-
boom, boom,
right,
boom.
or every
You're
3
all-
months.
You got to
Right.
feed the beast.
keep
you just
feeding
have
it.
to feed the
Exactly.
beast.
There you go.
Yeah.
So if you do a 3 or 4 song EP once, twice, 3 times a year.
Right, exactly. Because people's, they get bored, or they've heard this song so much, or they're saturated with it, they're ready for something new. So you got to feed the beast more often. Yes, sir.
And
Good
all
job.
in all of my time of talking about music in the industry with bands, I something just sparked with me. I remember back in one of my all-time favorite bands is Uriah Heep, all-time favorite. But back in the 70s, especially in the 70s, 70 to 75, 78, bands like Uriah Heep and Kiss and all those guys that were popular, they had 2 or 3 full albums a year.
Right.
Released.
Right.
Why did that change, you think?
Because
Oh.
record companies are not wanting to put in that that amount of money into bands anymore.
Let's
That's-
soak as
But don't
much-
you kind of seen it go back that way with feeding the industry? Like,
well,
what-
they
Right.
want to suck
sparked
as
that,
much
was putting out
quickly
those
and then
EPs.
get onto something else and suck some more. It's
Right.
it
Yeah,
is.
interesting.
It's a very piranha type business. It
Oh,
really
yeah.
is. It's
Yeah.
that simple. I mean, you know, doesn't matter who you are. The minute that wave burns out of that fire, we're on to who's the next fire.
Sure.
Bands aren't getting signed for 10 albums. You know, they're getting signed for sink or swim 1-year deals, and that's it.
Right.
No bands are getting, nobody's getting
Tough.
money up front.
You know, I think one of the worst things bands have done to themselves, they sell themselves short. I mean, when we're breaking into new markets, I'll be honest, we play cheaper than we do when we're in markets where we're established, obviously. But it
They
just
don't make
blows
a
my
stand
mind.
for
It
what
just
they're
blows my
worth.
mind how many bands will just play for free anywhere and everywhere.
Right.
You know, it just taints the industry. You know,
Right.
how much time and effort you put into your craft, and then all you do is bring the industry down when you go and do it for nothing.
So we can't blame it all on the labels.
You know, we've
Artists have to
we've
take
done it to
responsibility,
ourselves. We've done it to
Right,
ourselves.
we've done ourselves.
You know, I mean, I can't.
You know, guys maybe locally from here for tonight, because we've come here and Bobble Flex is on the bill, and we're from Lincoln. There's probably guys that grow up here and maybe would just love to just play once a year. And
Agents don't even get it.
Right.
Agents don't even get it. It comes down to perspective. It's people perceive you what you're willing to sell yourself, what you tend to say you're worth.
Wow, they're
It's like,
demanding
you know,
$1,000
when
a
you go,
night.
oh, okay, we'll take $100. Well, you're a $100 band then. You go, I need
Right.
$1,000, and all of a sudden they go, oh, you're a $1,000 band. You know.
And that's a portion of it also. What people perceive you as.
Awesome. Well, awesome, man.
Thank
you guys
you very
have
much.
anything else you'd like to add?
I don't know, thanks for having us on.
We'd like to
Appreciate
say
it.
thank you so
Good
much for
luck
having
with
us.
MusicCon. I mean, seriously, good luck with your
Very
work.
Hopefully we'll have you out at one of our conventions one
That'd be
day.
badass.
We would love to. It'd be a pleasure. We are
Rockford,
Paisty-
it's good to see
We
ya.
are Rockford, Illinois. We are Paisty Jenny
Paisty
from Lincoln,
Jenny.
Nebraska.
Rock on.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all